This is Cecil B. deMille, speaking to you from Hollywood. And I'm speaking to you now, not as a motion picture producer and director, but as a private citizen who believes that every American must have the right to earn a living for himself and his family, whether he belongs to a labor union or not. Today, in more than half the states, the unions have the legalized power to force a man to join them and support causes to which he may be conscientiously opposed. Can you, as a responsible citizen, close your eyes to the fact that in your own state, a man's right to work can be taken away from him by the whim of a labor boss? Can you afford to leave such power in any hands? Like most Americans, I work for a living, and I'm a member in good standing of one labor organization. I am also a member in bad standing of another labor organization. In 1944, because I refused to pay a $1 assessment to support a political stand to which I was opposed, I was suspended by that other union. As a result of that suspension, I lost my right to work in radio and television. The loss of my radio job did not bankrupt me, but it woke me up with a terrible jolt to my responsibility and to your responsibility to work for legislation that will protect men and women to whom the loss of a job might mean disaster. In the near future, you are going to be faced with a showdown. This simple piece of paper will decide your fate. It may decree that someday you will be ordered to join a labor union or give up your right to work, your means of support. It is the admitted purpose of the big labor bosses to organize every wage earner and every salaried worker in this nation. That means you, no matter how you feel about it. And it can be done, as long as we have compulsory unionism.
And so the question of freedom for the individual, which in other times and other states has been kicked around as a political issue, is at last yours to decide. This is your once-in-a-lifetime chance to declare that labor unions were made for man, not man for the unions. It is essential that you know the truth about this issue and the facts behind it. First of all, it is true that compulsory unionism denies the rights of the individual. Of those employed in a union shop, many believe wholeheartedly in benefits they receive from the union. That is as it should be, for no one would, or for that matter could, deny these people the right to join the union if they want to. But what of the men who do not consider the union beneficial? Here is the first instance of the rights of an individual being denied. For although such a wage earner does not agree with the policies of the particular union to which he is forced to pay dues, he does not have a choice. He must join or lose his job. Now let's look into the case of the union members themselves. They too can have their rights taken away from them. Suppose they object to some phase of union activity. If they do, there is very little they can do about it. Under the present circumstances, a union member must continue to pay his dues or lose his job. And so he has no really effective way of objecting to anything. The edicts simply come down from the union boss's office, and the rank-and-file member is under pressure to support them. Hence, congressional hearings have revealed many of the evils which have grown up out of compulsory unionism. Evils which blacken the good name of labor. The frauds and misuse of union funds, which are crimes against the union members themselves, forced to pay for activities they may be opposed to. And the violence, planned and carried out by paid henchmen. Such evils are in part the result of giving to the union boss the power to take away a man's right to work, of blessing compulsory unionism with legal sanction. Any state which is expanding industrially is a prime target for those who wield the power of compulsory unionism including corrupt union bosses and their racketeering associates. Not only does the wage earner suffer under compulsory unionism, but the general public as well. Farmers may find themselves forced to pay luds to the unions in order to transact business.
Remember, these are not scenes written by a Hollywood scriptwriter. These are true stories, just a few of many on record across this state. And here is something else to remember. Compulsory unionism can be outlawed without endangering the legitimate purpose of any labor organization. What happens to unions, you may ask? What happens to unions and to the general wage structure when employees are no longer forced to join a labor union to hold their jobs? Let's look at the facts.
18 states already have guaranteed freedom for the wage earner. Workers are free to choose for themselves whether or not they want to join a union. And in those states, according to the latest public figures, union membership voluntarily increased 192%, as compared to only 188% increase in other states. Unions have grown faster in states with voluntary unionism. Also, in those states where union membership is now entirely voluntary, the hourly wage rates increased 21% from 1952 to 1956, as opposed to a smaller increase of 19% in the other states. Department of Labor figures are conclusive. Wages increased at a faster rate in states with right-to-work laws. In the tumult and shouting that lies ahead, you will hear the voice of the union boss crying, "Unions must have security." What that statement really means is that the union boss must have security. He must be secure in his knowledge that no matter how he manipulates the union or its funds, his power will remain supreme. When wage earners have the right to work, whether or not they belong to a union, the union boss is returned to his proper place, serving his membership, providing the kind of good leadership which ensures security for a voluntary organization. Put this down on your list of truths when you consider the Right to Work Amendment. This amendment will give back to the wage earner freedom from unscrupulous labor bosses. The wage earner who benefits from dedicated leadership will support his union. Freedom of choice imposes responsibility for ethical action on the part of the working man as well as on his leaders. If he benefits, he should join, but he must be the one who decides.
Both the employer and the labor union may try to make you forget that the fight for guaranteed freedom of employment is a battle to protect the individual, that is you, to protect you from both of the favored interests. For under our present laws, both the employer and the union, bargaining in their own interests, can enter into a contract which violates your right to freedom of choice, a contract which can deny you the right to make up your own mind about whether or not you want to join a union. Now, this is the ultimate truth about the right to work. It is not against labor. It is not for management. It is for the worker, caught between these two forces, who has no protection. It is for you. Under the right to work, you, whether you see fit to join a union or not to join a union, you are guaranteed your freedom of choice. Those of us who are in this fight welcome the support of business, if business believes in the freedom of the individual. And we welcome the support of labor unions, if unions put the rights of their members as individuals before any other consideration.